Okay, hello and welcome. Uh, it got a bit weird with the software, but today, learn as we go. All right, hello, travelers. Welcome to my little corner of the internet. Doug's currently over that way outside of camera range, but figure pick up today where we left off last time, reading Irish Fairy and Folk Tales by W.B.Yeats. And last time we ended off with we read the introduction and the first chapter being the fate of the children of Lear. Uh, so today we're going to be reading the section called the Trooping Fairies, and there's multiple subchapters, and there's one bigger chapter. So let's see where it takes us. Damn, last story was crazy. I mean, the Irish word for fairy is Shioa, a diminutive of she in Banshee. Fairies are Dinishi, or the fairy people. Who are they? Fallen angels who are not good enough to be saved, nor bad enough to be lost, say the peasantry. The gods of the earth, says the Book of Armagh. The gods of the pagan Ireland, say the Irish and antiquarians. The Tuatha De Danann, who, when no longer worshipped and fed with offerings, dwindled away in the popular imagining, and now are only a few spans high. And they will let you, in proof that the name of fairy chiefs are the names of old Danan heroes and places where they especially gather together. Uh, Danan burying places, and that the and that the uh, Tuatha used also to be called the Sluashi, the fairy host, or the Makrashi, the fairy cavalcade. On the other hand, there is much evidence to prove them fallen angels. Witness the nature of the creatures, their caprice, their ways of being good to the good and evil to the evil, having many charms, having every charm, but concise consistency, being so quickly offended that you must not speak much about them at all, and never call them anything but the gentry, or else Daoin Mathith, which in English means good people, yet so easily pleased. They do their they they will do their best to keep misfortunes away from you if you leave the if you leave a little milk for them on the windowsill overnight. On the whole, the popular belief tells us most about them, telling us how they felt yet were not lost, because their evil was wholly without bounds. They are the gods of the earth, perhaps. Many poets and all mystic and occult writers in all ages and countries have declared that behind the visible are chains on chains on the earth, who have no inherent form, but change according to their whim or the mind that sees them. You cannot lift your hand without influencing and being influenced by hordes. The invisible word is merely their skin. In dreams we go amongst them and play with them and come back with them. They are perhaps human souls in the crucible, these creatures of whim. Do not think the fairies are always little. Everything is capricious about them, even their size. They seem to take what size or shape pleases them. Their chief occupations are feasting, fighting, and making love, and playing the most beautiful music. They have only one industrious person amongst them, the leprechaun, the shoemaker. Perhaps they wear their shoes out with dancing. Near the village of uh, Belisoder, there is a little woman who lived amongst them 7 years. When she came home, she had no toes. She had danced them off. Now, earlier there was an asterisk when it says the gods of the earth, like occultists from occultists from Parclissus to Ephes Livy divided the nature spirits into gnomes, sylphs, salamanders, undines, or earth, fire, and water spirits. Their emperors, according to Elephas, are the Cob are named Cob, Carlda, Jin, Hicks, respectively. The gnomes are covetous and of the melancholic temperament. Their usual height is about 2 spans, though they can elongate themselves into giants. The sylphs are capricious and of the bilious temperament. They are in size and strength much greater than men, and become the people of the wind. The salamanders are wrathful and in temperance sanguine. In appearance, they are long, lean, and dry. The undines are soft, cold, fickle, and phlegmatic. In appearance, they are like a man. Salamanders themselves have no fixed dwelling. That is what the asterisk earlier when after they are the gods of the. Not sure what he means by that, but hey, that's what's on the page, and I don't want to leave anything else. Anyway, back to she came home. She had no toes. She had cancer. They have 3 great festivals in the year: May Eve, Midsummer Eve, November Eve. And on May Eve, every 7th year, they fight all round, but mostly on the Plain O'Bran, Plain O'Bran, wherever that is. Literally, it says Plain A Bron, and in parentheses it says wherever that is. For the harvest, for the best ears of grain belong to them. An old man told me he saw them fight once. They tore the thatch off a house in midst of all. They had anyone else been near, they would merely have seen a great wind whirling everything into the air as it passed. When the wind makes the straws and leaves whirl as it pleases, that is the fairies and the peasantry take off their hats and say, God bless them. On Midsummer Eve, when the bonfires are lighted on every hill in honor of St. John, The fairies are at their gayest, and sometimes steal away uh, beautiful mortals to be their bride. On Midsummer Eve, when the bonfires are lighted on every hill in honor of St. John, the fairies at their gayest sometimes steal away beautiful mortals to be their brides. So he says beautiful mortal. I guess a beautiful oh man might be taken away to be a bride. Uh, on November Eve, they are at their gloomiest. For according to the old Ga- Gaelic reckoning, this is the first night of winter. This is the night they dance with the ghosts, and the polka is a breath. Oh, puka. Puka? This night they dance with the ghosts, and the puka is a breath. And witches make their spell, and girls set a table with food in the name of the devil, that the that the fetch of their future lover may come through the window and eat of the food. After November Eve, the blackberries are no longer wholesome, for the puka has spoiled them. When they are angry, they paralyze men and cattle with their fairy darts. When they are gay, they sing. May many a poor girl has heard them and pined away and died for love of that singing. Plenty of the old beautiful tunes of Ireland are only their music, caught up by eavesdropping. No wise peasant would come, the pretty girl milking the cow, near a fairy grave, for they are jealous and do not like to hear their songs on clumsy mortal lips. Corlin, the last of the Irish bards, slept on a wraith, and ever after the fairy tunes ran in his head, and made him a great man he was. Do they die? Blake saw a fairy funeral, but in Ireland we say they are immortal. Now, up next here we have a poem called The Fairy, accredited here to someone named William uh, Al. Allingham. Allingham? William Allingham. Okay, let's see if I remember. There's a little bit of poetry in the last one that I butchered, so let's see if I can do this cadence. Up the airy mountains, down the rushing glen, we daren't go a hunting for fear of little men. We folk, good folk, trooping all together, green jacket, red cap, owl, and white owl feather. Down along the rocky shore, some make their home. They live on crispy pancakes of yellow tide foam. Some in the reeds of the Black Mountain Lake, with the frogs and their watchdogs all night awake. High on the hilltop, the old king sits, and he is now so old and gray, nigh lost his wits. With the bridge of the white mist, column kill he crosses on his stately journeys from Slivergold to Roses, or going up with music on cold starry nights. He supped with the queen of gay northern lights. They stole little Bridget for 7 years long. When he came down again, her friends were all gone. They took her lightly back between the night and morrow. They thought that she was fast asleep, but she was dead with sorrow. They have kept her ever since, deep within the lake. on a bed of flag leaves, watching till she wakes. By the craggy hillside, through the mosses bare, they have planted thorn trees for pleasure here and there. Is there any man daring as to dig them up in spite? He shall find their sharpest thorns in the bed at night. Up the fairy mountain, up the airy mountain, down the rushing glen. We daren't go a hunting for fear of little men. We folk, good folk, trooping all together, green jacket, red cap, and the white owl's feather. Uh, It, it's a bit funny because I actually remember hearing a song, like, the kid song about leprechauns that actually opened with that line. The first and last verse of that particular poem. Up the airy mountain, down the rushing glen. We daren't go hunting for fear of little men. We folk, good folk, trooping all together. Green jacket, red cap, white owl feather. Like it's like that's the freaking the main reason why I started going into a little bit of melody because I've heard that before. I didn't realize there was a whole poem about it. Well, I hope I did that one justice, at least some. Frank Martin and the Fairies. This one's got a little note attributing it to one William Carl Carlton. William Carlton. Getting so used to overpronouncing every single name that Frank Martin and the Fairies by William Carlton, or as told by William Carlton. Okay, not by, as told by, not written, told by. You know, Martin was a thin, pale man when I saw him, of a sickly look, and a constitution naturally feeble. His hair was a light auburn, his beard mostly unshaven, and his hands of a singular delicacy and whiteness, owing, I dare say, as much to the soft and easy nature of his employment as to his infirm health. In everything else he was sensible, sober, rational, as any other man. But on the topic of fairies, the man's mania was uh peculiar, 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 peculiar. I know the word. I know the word. Peculiarly. Peculiarly. You don't want to say particularly, but it's peculiarly. Peculiarly. Or what? In everything else he was sensible, sober, and rational, as any other man. But on the topic of fairies, the man's mania was peculiarly strong and immovable. Indeed, I remember that the expression of his eyes was singularly wild and hollow, and his long, narrow temples sallow and emaciated. Now, this man did not lead an unhappy life, nor did the malady he labored under seem to be productive of either pain or terror to him, although one might be apt to imagine otherwise. On the contrary, he and the fairies maintained the most friendly intimacy, and their dialogues, which I hear were woefully one-sided ones, must have been a source of great pleasure to him, for they were conducted with much mirth and laughter on his part at least. Well, Frank, when did you see the fairies? Well, there are 2 dozen of them in the shop, the weaving shop. This minute, there's a little fellow sitting on top of the slaves, and all to be rocked while I'm weaving. The sorrows in them, but they're the greatest little smackers alive. So they are. See, there's another one of them at my dressing noggin. Uh, there's another asterisk here giving an explanation. The dressings are a species of sizy plumery which is brushed into yarn to keep the thread round even and to prevent it from being frayed by friction of the weave. Oh, see, there's another one at my dressing noggin. Go out of that, you're shivering, or besess you to me if you don't. But I'll lar you mark. Ha! Cut you see. Frank, aren't you afraid of them? Is it me? Ah, what is I be afraid of them for? They, sure, they have no power over me. And why haven't they, Frank? Because I was baptized against them. What do you mean by that? Why, the priest that christened me told by my father to put in a proper prayer against the fairies, and a priest can't refuse it when he's asked, and he did so. Well, Gora, it was well for me that he did. Let the tallow alone, you little guy. See, there's a wee little old thief, called antimatter. Uh, ah, because you see, it was their intention to make me the king of fairies. Is that possible? Is it possible? Devil a lie in it. Sure, you may ask them, and they'll tell you. What size are they, Frank? Oh, wee fellows with green coats and the purest little shoes you've ever seen. There's 2 of them, both old acquaintances of mine, running along the yarn. That old fellow with the bob wig is called Jim Jam, and another chap with 3 crooked hats is called Nicky Nick. Nicky plays the pipes. Nicky, give us a tune, or I'll malavogue you. Now, come now. Long, eerie, short. Wait. Now, listen. There's, there's probably an actual melody that's supposed to go there, or the probably look it up if I ever want. Yeah. The poor fellow through the poor fellow, through weaving as fast as he could all the time, yet bestowed every possible mark of attention to the music, and seemed to enjoy it as much as if it had been real. But who can tell whether that which we look upon as uh, privation may not, after all, be a fountain of increased happiness, greater perhaps than any which we ourselves enjoy? I forget who the poet is who says, "Mysterious are thy laws, the vision finer than the view. Her landscapes nature never drew, so fair a fancy draw." Many a time, when a mere child, not more than 6 or 7 years of age, have I gone as far as Frank's weaving shop in order, with a heart divided between curiosity and fear, to listen to his conversations with the good people from morning until night. His tongue was going almost as incessantly as his shuttle, and it was well known that at night, whenever he awoke out of his sleep, the first thing he did was put out his hand and push them as if it were off his bed. Go out of this, you thieves! You, go, get out now, and let me alone. Nicky, is there any time to be playing the pipes? And me want to sleep. Go on now. Cough if yous do. You'll see when I give yous tomorrow. Sure, I'll be making new dressing, and if ye's behave decently, I'll have leave yous see scraping on my pot. There now. Ah, poor things. They're decent creatures, though sure they're all gone barren poor Redcap. That doesn't like to leave me. And then the harmless monomaniac would fall back into what we trust was innocent. About this time, there was said to have occurred a very remarkable circumstance, which gave poor Frank a vast deal of importance among the neighbors. A man named Frank Thomas, the same in the house of Mickey McRory, held the first dance at which I ever saw him, as detailed in former sketch. This man, I say, had a child sick, but what complaint I cannot now remember, nor is it of any importance. One of the gables of Thomas's house was built against, or rather into, a fourth or raft called uh, Towney, or properly Tonic Fort. It was said to be haunted by the fairies, and what gave it a character peculiarly cu- God, where was I? Okay, I lost my place. Uh, a character peculiar, peculiar, peculiarly, peculiarly wild in my eyes was that there was the southern side of it two or three little green mounds, which were said to be the graves of unchristened children, over which it was considered dangerous and unlucky to pass. At all evenings the season was midsummer, and one evening about dusk, during the illness of the child, the noise of a handsaw was heard upon the front. This was considered rather strange, and after a little time, those who were assembled at Frank Thomas's went to see who could be that was sawing in such a place, or what they could be sawing at so late an hour. For everyone knew that nobody in the whole country was about them would dare cut down the few white thorns that grew upon the forest. On going to examine, however, judge of their surprise when, after surrounding and searching the whole place, they could discover no trace of either saw or sawer. In fact, the exception of themselves, there was no one, either natural or supernatural, visible. They then returned to the house and had scarcely sat down when it was heard again within 10 yards of them. Another exa- another examination of the premises took place, but with equal success. Now, however, while standing on the fort, they heard the sawing in a little hollow but 150 yards below them, which was completely exposed to their view, but they could see nobody. A party of them immediately went down to ascertain, if possible, what this singular noise and invisible labor could mean. But on arriving at the spot, they heard the sawing, to which there was now added hammering and driving nails upon the fort above, whilst those who knew, uh, those who stood on the fort continued to hear it in the hollow. On comparing notes, they resolved to send to Billy Nelson for Frank Martin, a distance of only 80 or 90 yards. He was soon at the spot, and without a moment's hesitation solved the enigma. "'Tis the fairies," he said. "I see them, and busy creatures they are." "But what are they sawing, Frank?" "They're making a child's coffin," he replied. "They have the already made, and now they're nailing the lid together." That night the child died, and the story goes that the second evening afterwards, the carpenter who was called upon to make the coffin brought a table out from Thomas's house to the fort as a temporary bench, and it said that the sawing and hammering necessary for completion of his task was precisely the same which had been heard the evening but once before, neither more nor less. I remember the death of a child myself, and the making of its coffin, and I think the story of the supernatural carpenter was not heard in the village for some months after its internment. Frank had every appearance of a hypochondriac about him. At the time I saw him, he might have stood about 30 or 40 years of age, but I do not think, from the debility of his frame and infirm health, that he had been alive for several years. He was an object of considerable interest and curiosity, and often I have been present when he was pointed out to strangers as the man who could see the good people. Mm, right. Next one is the priest's supper, uh, as told by T. Brockton. Brock. It is said by those who ought to understand such things that the good people, or the fairies, are some of the angels who are turned out of heaven and who landed on their feet in this world, while the rest of their companions, who had more sin and to sicken them, went down farther to a worse place. Be this as it may, there was a merry troop of fairies, dancing and singing all the manner of wild pranks on a bright moonlit evening towards the end of September. The scene of their merriment was not far distant from in in the west country of Cork, a poor village, although it had a barrack for soldiers but green mountains and barren rocks, like those round about it, are enough to strike poverty into any. However, as the fairies can have anything they want for the wishing, poverty does not trouble them much, and all their care is to seek out uh, uh, unfrequented nooks and places where it is not likely anyone will come spoil their sport. On a nice green sod by the riverside, where the little fellows dancing in a ring as gaily as may be, with their red caps wagging about at every bound in the moon, and so light were their bounds that lobs of dew, although they trembled under their feet, were not disturbed by their caper. Thus they thus did they carry on their gambols, spinning round and round, whirling and bobbing, and diving, and going through all manner of figures, until one of them chirped out, "Cease, cease with your drumming! Here's the end of our mumming. I, by my smell, I can tell a priest this way is coming." And away every one of the fairies scampered off as hard as they could, concealing themselves under green leaves of some Lustmore, where if their little red caps should happen to be out, they would only look like its crimson bells. And more hid themselves at the shady side of stones and brambles, and others under the bank of the river, and in holes and crannies of one kind or another. The fairy speaker was not mistaken, for along the road which was within view of the river came Father Horrigan and his pony, thinking to himself that it was so late he could make an end to his journey at the first cabin he came to. According to this determination, he stopped at the dwelling of Lermond, of Dermond Larry, lifted the latch, entered with "My blessings on all here." I need not say that Father Horton was a welcome guest wherever he went, for no man was more pious or better beloved in the country. Now it was a great trouble to Dermond that he had nothing to offer his reverence, for supper was a relish to the potato, which the old woman, for so Dermond called his wife, thought she was not much past, though she was not much past 20, had down boiling in a pot over the fire. He thought of the net which he set in the river, but as it had been there only a short time, chances were against him finding a fish. No matter, thought Dermot, there can be no harm in sipping down to try, and maybe, as I want the fish for the priest's supper, that one will be there before me. Down to the riverside went Dermot, and he found in his net a fine salmon, as he jumped the bright water of uh, I hate it. Off there. Down to the riverside went Dermot, and he found in the net as fine a salmon as ever jumped the bright waters of the spreading leaves. But as he was going to take it out, the net was pulled from him. He could not tell how or by whom, and got got the salmon, and went swimming along the current as gaily as if nothing had happened. Dermot looked sorrowfully at the wake which the fish had left upon the water, shining like a line of silver in the moon. And then, with an angry motion, his right hand and a stamp of his foot, gave vent to his feelings by muttering, "May bitter bad luck attend you night today for a blackguard schemer of a salmon, wherever you go. You ought to be ashamed of yourself, if there's any shame in you, to give me the slip after this fashion, and I'm clear in my own mind that you'll come to no good, for some kind of evil thing or other helped you. Did I not feel it pull the net against me as strong as the devil himself?" "That's not true for you," said one of the little fairies who had scampered off at the approach of the priest, coming up to Dermot Larry with a whole throng of companions at his heels. "There were only a dozen and a half of us pulling against you." Dermot gazed at the tiny speaker with wonder and continued, "Make yourself no ways uneasy about the priest's supper, for if you will go back and ask him one question from us." Oh, sorry. Dermot gazed at the tiny speaker with wonder, who continued, "Make yourself no ways uneasy about the priest's supper, or if you will go back and ask him one question from us, there will be a fine supper as ever was put to table spread out before him, in less than no time." "I'll have nothing at all to do with you," replied Dermot in a tone of determination, and after a pause he added, "I'm much obliged to you for your offer, sir, but I know better than to sell myself to you, or the like to you, for a supper. And more than that, I know Father Morgan has more regard for my soul than to wish me to pledge it forever out of regard for anything that you could put before him. So there's an end of the matter." The little speaker, with a per- pertinacy not to be repulsed by Dermot's manner, continued, "Will you ask the priest one civil question for us?" Dermot considered for a time, and he was right in doing so, but he thought that no one could come to harm out of asking a civil question. I see no objection to doing this. I see no objection to do that same gentleman, uh, the said Dermot. "But I will have nothing in life to do with your supper, mind that." "Then," said the little speaking fairy, whilst the rest came crowding around him from all parts, "go and ask Father Horrigan, and tell us whether our souls will be saved on the last day, like the souls of good Christians. And if you wish us well, bring back word of what he says without delay." Away went Dermot to his cabin, where he found the potatoes thrown out on the table, and his good woman handling the biggest of them all. beautiful, laughing red apple, smoking like a hard-ridden horse on a frosty night over to Father Hook. Please, your reverence, said Dermond after some hesitation. "M- May I make bold to ask your honor one question?" "What may it be?" said Father Horrigan. "Why, then, begging your reverence's pardon for my freedom, if the souls of the good people are to be saved on that last day." "Who bid you ask me that question, Leary?" said the priest, fixing his eyes upon him very sternly, which Dermond could not stand before it all. "I tell no lies about the matter, and nothing in life but the truth," said Dermond. "It was the good people themselves who sent me to ask the question, and there they are in thousands down at the bank of the river, waiting for me to go back with an answer." "Go back by all means," said the priest, "and tell them if they want to know, to come here to me themselves, and I'll answer that or any other question that they are pleased to ask, with the greatest pleasure in life." Dermond accordingly returned to the fairy, who came swarming around him to hear what the priest had said in reply. And Dermond spoke among them like a bold man he was. And they heard, and they must go to the priest. But when they heard that they must go to the priest, away they fled. Some here, some there, some over that way, and such. Whisked away, whisking by poor Dermond so fast and in such numbers that he was quite bewildered. When he came to himself, which was not for a long time, back he went to his cabin. He ate his dry potatoes along Father Horrigan, who made quite light of the thing. But Dermond could not help thinking that a mighty hard case that his reverence, whose words had such power to banish the fairies at such a rate, should have no sort uh should have no sort of relish to his supper, and that the fine salmon he had in his net have gone away from him in such a manner. Need to refill my glass. So this next one is the fairy well of Lagnanay, as told by Samuel Ferguson. Mournfully sing mournfully. Oh, listen, Ellen, sister dear, this is no help at all for me, but only ceaseless sight and theft. Mournfully sing mournfully. Oh, listen, Ellen, sister dear, is there no help at all for me, but only ceaseless sigh and tear? Why did you? Why did not he who left me here with stolen hope steal memory? Oh, listen, Ellen dear, mournfully and mournfully. I'll go away to I'll go away to Slimish Hill. I'll pluck the fairy hawthorn tree. I'll let the spirits work their will. I care not for good or ill. So they but lay the memory which my which all my heart is haunting till. Mournfully sing mournfully. The fairies are silent ring, and pale as lily flowers see. For and pale as lilies flowers see. I care not for a blanched face, for wanting a dreaming place. So I but banish memory. I wish I was there with Anna Grace, mournfully sing mournfully. Hearken to my tale of woe, was thus to weeping Ellen on. Her sister said in accent low, her only sister, Una Bron, was in their bed before the dawn, and Ellen answered sad and slow, O Una, Una, be not drawn, hearken to my tale of woe. To this unholy grief I pray, which makes me sick at heart to know, and I will help you if I may, the fairy well of Lagnanay. Lie nearer me, I tremble so, Una, I heard wise women say, hearken to my tale of woe, that if before the dews arise, true maidens in its icy flow, with pure hand bathe her bosom thrice, three ladies breaken pluck likewise, and three times round the fountain go, she straight forgets her tears and sighs, hearken to my tale of woe. All alas, and well away, O sister Ellen, sister sweet, come with me to the hill, I pray, and I will prove the blessed seat. They rose with soft and silent feet. They lift their mother where she lay, their mother and her care discreet. All alas, all will away. And soon they reached the fairy well, the mountain's eye clear, cold, and gray. Wide open in the dreary fell, how long they stood, 'twas vain to tell. Uh, at last upon the point of day, Bron Una bears her bosom swell, all alas and well away. Thrice o'er she shrieking breasts she lived, the gliding glass that will not stay, of stubbly streaming fairy wave, and now the charm free Brecon cave. She plucks them in their pricked away array, now round the well her fate she braves, all alas, on well away. Save us all from fairy thrall, Ellen sees her face the rim. Twice and thrice, and that is all, fought the hill and the maiden swim, altogether melting dim. Una, Una, thou mayest call, sister sad, but lith or limb, save us from the fairy thrall. Never again of Una Bran, where now she walks in dreamy hall, shall eyes of mortal look upon. Oh, can it be the guard was gone, the better guard than shield or wall, who knows on earth save uh, Derlec dawn. Save us from the fairy thrall. Behold, the banks are green and bare, no pit is there within to fall. I at the font you will be may share, but not save pebbles smooth is there, and small straws whirling one and all, hide thee home, and be thy prayer, save us from the fairy throne. In about an hour. Do I have the voice for one more? This next one's long. Pages? Breath? No. No, I don't. I think I will have to cut it here. 'Cause I do not have the breath to do the next story, and I'm not about to be bouncing around. But I hope you had enjoyment. I hope we shall meet again. And safe travel.